You're listening to That Woman podcast, the podcast that helps women embrace the journey of finding self purpose, growing their faith, and becoming the best version of themselves one day at a time. My name is Vanessa Torres, and I am your host. All right, so today's episode is going to look a little bit different from all the previous episodes I've done so far. I decided to create a new series on the show, and I'm calling it Soul Sessions. I'm literally sitting down on my couch, sipping on some tea. My kids are asleep right now. Well, most of them. One of them is working, the other one is upstairs still kind of awake. She's actually not feeling very well. We're kind of fighting a little bit of a cold flu right now, and baby is asleep. So I figured this would be a perfect time for me to just sit down and chit chat with everybody. That's kind of what I've been wanting to do for a while. I've always wanted this podcast to feel like we are sitting down. You're my friend, catching up, talking about life, talking about what's new. You are going to hear me rambling a little bit more. It's not going to be as direct as my other episodes usually are. I want this to feel very authentic, like we are having that conversation one on one. I want to invite you to grab yourself a drink, sit down on the couch, keep doing whatever you're doing if you're at home or even driving. I just wanted to get started on this new series of soul sessions. And without further ado, let's begin. Hi, I'm Vanessa Torres, and welcome to my podcast. Over the years, I've navigated through the highs and lows of life, rebuilt my life alongside my husband and two daughters when we left beautiful British Columbia and had to start from scratch in search of a better life for our family. I've struggled to find my own identity outside of being a wife and a mother. And like me, there's so many of us that are trying to find our purpose, have a voice, and simply try to be the best versions of ourselves. Join me on this journey to discover and become that woman you can be proud of. We'll peel back the curtains and discuss topics on lifestyle, marriage, motherhood, walking in our faith, and what it takes to reach the other side of fear, and so much more. Think of me as your girl having a glass of wine and deep diving on meaningful, raw, and unscripted conversations. This is the place where you can be fierce, bold, and unapologetic. This is That Woman podcast. Okay, so for the first episode of Soul Sessions, I wanted to focus on the theme of motherhood, being a third time mom, the lessons, the realities, the rewards, the challenges, a little bit of everything today. So if you are new to this show, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Just to give you a little bit of a background, as you probably guessed, I am a mom. I have three beautiful daughters that I've been blessed with. My oldest is 15. Her name is Eliana. My second is Natalia. She's 11. And my third one, who is my 8-month baby girl, her name is Noelia. Just by listening to the ages, you can kind of see that there is definitely a mix of ages, all the way from a teenager to a preteen to a baby. So I've definitely gone through many seasons of having kids. It's been quite a journey, let me tell you, but it's been a beautiful journey, and it's been a lot of lessons and a lot of growth that I've taken away from becoming a mother. So that is something that I kind of wanted to talk about today, and just acknowledge that motherhood is a journey. It's completely unique and it's full of lessons, and everyone's journey as being a mother is just, it's going to look different. And maybe you're not a mom yet. Maybe you are someone that wants to become a mom in the future. Maybe you are planning for that. Or maybe you're just curious and you're kind of like, well, I kind of want to hear what this whole motherhood thing is about. And so I welcome you and I invite you to sit and listen, because you might take something away from today's episode. So, the first part that I want to talk about is a lesson, one of the first lessons I would say that I learned in motherhood, and that is resiliency. Many of you probably have heard the saying that motherhood is not for the faint of heart. It definitely requires a lot of patience, and that is sort of an understatement. Motherhood is so complex in itself, but I would say that one of the biggest lessons I personally have taken away from being a mom is just the resiliency that you build. the way you build through a lot of challenges, a lot of ups and downs. I just wish that it would get easier as I had more kids, and I wish I could tell you that. But at least for me, I felt like some things were easier and some things were still just like I'm starting over again. And so I think it's important to just recognize that it doesn't matter how many kids you have. You could probably have five, and maybe majority of you would agree that it's always a challenge. Every single child that you have, it's not going to be the same from the previous child. You have these beautiful human beings that you are raising. And even though they're related, even though they're siblings, they are completely different. They have different needs, different personalities, learn differently, they listen differently, they act differently. And so being a mother really teaches you to adapt to every single situation and care for all your kids at the same time, but in different ways. Being a mother, I find that one of the hardest parts that you deal with, it's that you are trying to figure out how to be a mom. You're having to maneuver and juggle many different hats. Maybe you're a single mom. So that is a huge challenge in itself. Maybe you are with your husband, but your husband works a lot. And so a lot of the responsibilities fall on you. But being a mom, it's one of your identities, not your entire identity. And so I have a little trailer intro for my podcast where I do talk about that. I struggled for many, many years trying to find that identity because a lot of the times when we become moms, especially at the beginning, that's all we're focused on. It's just being a mom and trying to keep this little person alive and trying to, be the best mom that you can possibly be. And it takes a toll on you. If you know my story, I live in Edmonton, Alberta, but originally we are from Vancouver. We moved out here for my husband's work. Didn't really know anyone. We have no family here. My husband was working out of town at that time. He was working like 4 hours away and he would come for a few days and then he would have to go back and spend the first year. That was a long time ago, I think in 2014 that we moved here to Edmonton. That first year, I remember it was extremely hard because I had my oldest, who at that time, she was probably around 5 or 6. And then I had my second youngest. She was not even 2 years old, probably like around a year and a half when we moved. We came to a new city, a new province, and it was a very isolating time. Even though I knew that this was a sacrifice for what was best for our family, and we were in search of that better quality of life that we could provide our daughters, it was an extremely trying year. It was very lonely. And looking back now, however, I can tell you that I don't regret our move. And I certainly don't regret going through that period where I was by myself with my daughters because it truly did teach me that I am able to overcome certain obstacles, especially when you're in a situation where it's either like sink or swim type of thing. That period of time where I was on my own and I had to sort of figure things out, I had to push myself because there was no other option. I would not be who I am today if I didn't look at those situations as a lesson that taught me to be stronger, taught me to be more brave, taught me to get out of my comfort zone and get more creative. That is something I remember having to overcome that was really difficult, but it has definitely given me something to just be proud of when I look back and just realize that, we have a lot more within us that we don't even know unless we go through those situations. And so, anyway, that is the first part that I kind of wanted to mention on resiliency. The second lesson I want to talk about that I've learned through motherhood is to embrace the slow seasons of life. Being a mom for the third time has taught me the biggest lessons on embracing the slow seasons, more so than the first two times. The first two times, I felt like the slow seasons of my life, meaning if you're a stay at home mom with a new baby, that's the slow season I'm referring to specifically. Natalia and Eliana, they're 4 years apart. So there's a little bit of a gap, not too much. It's a good gap to have, right? 4 years, not too bad. I don't recall feeling such a huge disruption in my routine, in my daily life, because the gap wasn't extremely long. When I became a mom for the second time, because I guess that's when you kind of feel it more, or even the first time, I would say, because of course you go from not having any kids and having that freedom, and then now you have a kid. And so your life completely changes. Embracing those slow seasons for me personally, the first two times around, didn't feel like a bad thing. I enjoyed it. I took that time to recover. I didn't end up going back to work the second time with Natalia, which I was completely okay with. I love being a stay at home mom and just staying with my girls and getting to enjoy those milestones. But let me tell you, in all honesty, my experience this third time around at the beginning was extremely different. And what I mean by that is that sometimes it even still hurts me to say this, but I had a really hard time adjusting this new time around with my third one. Being a mom again after 10 years, guys, I'm telling you, like, I really did not think that I was going to have more kids. I've always been someone that has said, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Part of me thought it would be nice to have one more, but it was never anything that I purposely was like, okay, like this is when it's going to happen, or this is how we're going to, like, it was never nothing like that. And so I kind of left it up to God, really, to decide if it was meant to be, what's going to happen. And so when it did happen 10 years later, it was a huge shock. I was in complete denial. I think I took probably like 5 or 6 pregnancy tests. I don't even remember. I took quite a few because I was just in so much denial that I was gonna have another baby after 10 years. It was just crazy to me. And so, of course, extremely happy, and what a blessing. And I can honestly say that having Noelia has brought so much joy into our lives. But the first couple of months were very hard for me because I went from having all this freedom. My daughters were older by then, right? So they're a lot more independent. I could come and go whenever I wanted. I would meet up with friends all the time. I would be at work, working in retail management. If you don't know, the hours are kind of all over the place. There's no true work life balance, so to speak, because you have your schedule open all the time. If I had to stay late, I would stay late. If I had to come in extra early, I would come in extra early. And so again, there was like no rules, right? But now all of a sudden I have another baby, and in my mind, I couldn't wait to get back to being able to be independent. I remember wishing, you know, I was like, oh man, I can't wait for my daughter to just grow up. Like, I want her to grow up fast. And oh my gosh, it does hurt me to say this because I just can't believe that this was my mentality, my mindset only like a few months ago. But that's what I used to think. I used to think, I can't wait till she's older. I can't wait till she starts crawling. I can't wait till she starts walking so that I can have more freedom and I'm able to do more things and I can go out. I almost felt trapped. Honestly, I'm just putting it bluntly. Like, I felt trapped that after 10 years, I'm now having to start over again. And I felt it more this time because I had all this freedom, and now all of a sudden I had to literally stay put. Thank God I don't feel that way anymore. It could not be further from the truth. And part of it, I think, was that long gap in between where you feel like you're starting over. But the other part, when you have a baby, your hormones are all over the place. Like, do not make any any important decision during the time if you just had a baby, like, like 1, 2, 3 months after having a baby. You have to be very careful because you are in such a delicate stage of motherhood where your body is still trying to rebalance itself. I've read somewhere your body for a woman after you've had a kid, you don't start to feel like yourself again for most women until about a year. And that's start to feel. It's not even like, oh, okay, I'm back to myself. No, because I can tell you that that is a constant battle every single day trying to get back to feeling like yourself. I don't know if we necessarily ever get there, but that's okay because I've come to realize that there's something so much more beautiful than going back to feeling like yourself. When you have a baby, I love to think now, I look at it as you're also being reborn again. For every child that you have, you are also born again. And now, like I said, a few months later, finally, after my hormones kind of settled a little bit, thank God my perspective shifted because I have come to absolutely love the slow season that I'm in right now. I feel so guilty and it hurts me that I even thought like this once upon a time. But that's where the grace and kindness for ourselves needs to come in as well. We are so extremely hard on ourselves, and we have to remember to forgive ourselves and just be more graceful to ourselves because it's a lot. Becoming a mom, it's a huge thing. It's not just your physical body that goes through changes, it's your mental health, it's your emotional health. It's a lot of moving pieces when it comes to motherhood, like I said earlier. And so the other day, I was looking at videos of when Noelia was born, and I'm like, oh gosh, this was just 8 months ago. She's almost a year, just like that. Almost a year. I want to absorb and enjoy every single moment, every single second with my children because they grow so fast. They really do grow so fast. I've accepted and I'm embracing those slow seasons. And so I want to invite all of you who are moms to really see the beauty and savor the small and everyday moments that you have with your baby. All right. The third lesson that I want to share is the evolving parenting styles. The other day, I was at home just hanging out with my three daughters, and Eliana, my oldest, she made a comment, something about, I can't remember exactly what it was that brought this on, but she just made a comment to say, you are not the same way with Noelia, the way that you were with us. She's like, you are very different. Like, you have changed. And I was like, I'm like, well, she's still a baby. I can't really discipline her the way I would discipline them if they were a toddler or a little bit older. But she's like, I already know that you're not going to be the same way you were with us. You're not going to be that way with her. Like, I can already see it. And I was like, huh. It really got me to thinking, why would she say that? Because again, for me, I'm like, she's a baby. How much disciplining can I do, or how much parenting style can I have right now? She's still a baby. But you know what? I can see why she said that. The way I talk to them has changed. The way I approach a situation has changed. And so when Eliana said what she said, I know now that she wasn't really necessarily saying it because of how I was directly with Noelia. She was saying it because of how my parenting style has changed now with them. I actually came across a video, like a reel on Instagram the other day. There's different versions of it. I know I've seen a few of them, but it said something along the lines of your first child teaches you how to be a mom. Your second child teaches you how to be patient, and your third one teaches you to soak up every single moment or something along those lines. I'm kind of paraphrasing here because there's so many different ones I've seen, but it's so true. It is 100% true. I think that with every kid that you have, your parenting perspective changes. I 100%. I'm not the same parent I was with Ilyana, the parent that I was with Natalia. I am not that parent today. It is very, very different. And I think that just comes with the maturity of, you have more kids, so you have more lessons. I don't want to say it's a trial and error thing, but really, in a way, it is, right? Like, you don't have a manual to go off of to say, hey, in this situation, this is how you're supposed to handle it. With your first, especially, you are learning. You are trying to figure it out. You're trying to learn how to parent. You're trying to learn, okay, when do I back off or when do I become more strict? And then your second one comes along, and I feel like there's always that little pang of guilt, right? When you have your second one, because you're like, oh gosh, this is a lot harder. Like, I thought having two after having one would be a lot easier. But no, at least for me, I felt like it was a lot harder. And so now you're trying to maneuver that and trying to juggle that, and you're trying to make sure that both your children are being taken care of, both your children feel loved, that they don't feel like there's any preference or anything like that. And then you add a third one to the mix after, or a fourth one, right? For anybody that has more than three. And so I do 100% agree with what Eliana, the interesting observation she made about me, how my parenting style has definitely changed. And I'm glad it has. I'm definitely glad it has because I can look back and think that it's amazing how, as the years go on, you learn to balance your past wisdom with your present needs because your children, as they grow too, they are gonna need different things, they're gonna go through different things, and so they're gonna require different parenting skills from you that you have to apply. If I'm correcting or trying to help out my teenager, it looks completely different from trying to talk and connect with my preteen, or the needs of my baby, right? Which is again completely different. And so I think that I feel very lucky to now be able to blend all my previous lessons that I've learned from my older kids, and I'm able to apply that with them, right? So, yeah, that's just kind of something really short that I just wanted to share about how having a baby after 10 years has changed me in my parenting style. All right. So now I kind of want to dive a little bit into another part of this motherhood journey. And I kind of want to call this part the realities of motherhood. And so the first reality that I want to talk about, it's the challenges and struggles of motherhood and the one that I'm currently going through. Let's talk about sleep. That is a hot topic when it comes to being a mom. Sleep is a whole thing and not a thing when you're a mom. I can't tell you how hard it's been this time around. Mind you, when I had my first two, I was a lot younger, guys, okay? When had Eliana, I was 22, 23. And then I had Natalia like 4 years later. So I was like 26, 27. And now having Noelia, I had her at 36. I'm 37 now. Huge difference with my energy and my ability to bounce back. I cannot pull an all nighter, guys. I cannot do it for the life of me. And I can tell you that comparing losing sleep 10 years ago to now has been a night and day difference. That is not to sugarcoat it. I'm not sugarcoating anything. Like I said, we're talking about realities and we're talking about struggles. And that is a real one, guys. If you are planning on becoming a mom or have a family, let me tell you, and I'm glad I did this when I got pregnant with Noelia. Sleep as much as you can. Like sleep all day, sleep all night, sleep in the afternoon, take siestas, just sleep. All right. When you're pregnant, because I'm telling you, when you have a kid, you can say goodbye to sleep for a long, long time. That has been a personal struggle of mine this time around. I have definitely felt it more than with my other two kids. And another reality of motherhood that I just kind of want to throw out there too is the selflessness of motherhood. If you want to be a mom, you cannot be selfish. Like I mentioned earlier about the whole freedom thing that I was struggling with, you can't hang on to that because eventually, yes, I'm not saying that, hey, you have a kid, you're tied for life. In some ways, you're always going to be connected to your children. I mean, you're a mother, you're never going to stop being a mother. Your kid could probably be 30 years old and you're still going to have a responsibility to your child in one way or another. But what I'm referring to is you have to transform your priorities and you have to learn that it's not going to look the same now. Once upon a time, maybe your priorities were going out with your friends, traveling or whatnot. And again, not to say that you can't have those things, but they are going to look a lot different and they're going to be in a very different order. I was actually watching this video a few months ago, okay, but it really stuck with me. And it's this channel that I follow. It's called the Catholic Minute. And it's this couple, husband and wife. The husband's name is Ken and the wife's name is Janelle. amazing, beautiful couple. They just have wonderful advice and they share so many beautiful things about the Catholic faith. But the video that I was watching specifically, where I took so much from, it was actually a video of them talking about why you should have more kids. And so naturally, having my third one, I was like, that's kind of interesting. I kind of want to hear what they have to say. I think it was like 10 reasons that they had as to why you should have more kids. But the one that really stuck with me, basically, they were saying that one of the reasons you should have more kids is because when you have more children, it teaches your other children to be selfless. Because when you have more children, so of course, naturally, they are not going to have all the attention, but your children are learning to also take care of others. And in this world, guys, nowadays, especially, a lot of the younger generation is growing up to be pretty selfish and prioritizing different things that are not going to bring you joy, they're not going to bring you happiness. I also want to add to that that it teaches you as a parent to learn how to be more selfless every time, because having this love for your children or just love in general, right? Love means you have to sacrifice. You sacrifice for the ones that you love. And so, what bigger sacrifice than being a mother with all these beautiful children you're blessed with? Oh my gosh, with this couple, Ken and Janelle, I think she just had her eighth baby. Yes, she just had her eighth baby. And you look at this family and you're like, there's so many of them. But, the recent videos where they showed their new baby and she was just kind of sharing her labor story and whatnot, I couldn't help but just admire how beautiful and the dynamic that they all have together. Like their older kids are probably teenagers, maybe around like my daughter's age, they're probably like 15, 16, all the way down to now, a baby. But like I said earlier, learning how to be selfless is truly a gift. We live in a world now where there's that toxic culture sometimes that is thrown at moms where it's like self-care, self-care. I agree with taking care of your body, taking care of your mental health, taking care of your emotional, spiritual health. I am not against any of that. However, we have to be so careful because there is a toxic side to it where if we don't prioritize the proper way, that's where we kind of get into dangerous territory. When you are going through a hard time as a mom, when you are going through those hard seasons, because my gosh, there are many, many hard seasons when it comes to motherhood, but it's all about looking at it from a different lens and recognizing that there is something beautiful that comes out of that self sacrifice, something beautiful that comes out of that selflessness. You're doing it for love. And from a spiritual aspect, we look at the perfect example of Jesus, where God loved the world so much that he gave us his only son to die on the cross. That is the purest form of love right there on the cross. There's no other reason why Jesus chose to die on the cross for us other than because of the love that he had for us. And just to wrap up this episode, the last couple of points I kind of wanted to mention, the other realities as well, because the realities don't necessarily have to be something bad. I want to really focus on the fact that there is so much good that comes from motherhood. As women, we have been given this unique gift where we are able to create a life, we're able to bring a life into this world. And we are born with that beautiful maternal instinct to immediately care for our babies, and we have that amazing connection with them. What a privilege it is. You are being given a human life that you are in charge of raising into this world. Like, I, as a mom, sometimes just kind of ponder and think about that throughout the day where I'm like, wow, God has trusted me with these three beautiful daughters, and it is my job. He chose me to be their mother, to raise them, to teach them to be kind, to teach them to be respectful, to teach them to think about others. That's not something to be taken lightly. Society sometimes wants to make it feel like it's a burden. If you become a mother, your life is over, right? That's sort of the narrative Sadly, I fell into that narrative, into those lies many years ago. But by the grace of God, I was able to now see things for what they are. And being a mother is not a burden. Being a mother is not, my life is over now and there goes all my hopes and dreams. No, being a mother is one of the greatest gifts that you could have possibly been blessed with. It is amazing how our bodies just work. Being a new mom, I'm always Googling everything. And so I came across an article the other day where it said something about the whole mom brain thing. You guys, that is real. I didn't talk about that as some of the struggles because that is another struggle I forgot to mention. The whole mom brain situation. It is real, guys. I feel like that never really goes away, but it is good. Mom brain is good. And I'll tell you why. The reason why moms develop this whole mom brain thing, like your brain is like foggy, you forget everything, is because your brain, I could not believe when I heard this, your brain literally shrinks when you become a mom. I know you might be thinking, okay, what the hell, Vanessa? How could that possibly be good? But let me tell you why it's good. God never makes a mistake. Everything He's created has been to perfection, and there is a reason why. The article said that when you become a mom, your brain shrinks. But the reason it does that is because it actually enhances all these other maternal instincts you have, like being able to sense danger, being able to perceive when something is wrong with your baby. Don't forget, babies, other than crying, they can't really tell you how they feel. But as a mom, you develop this sixth sense where you can pick up on things. This is why, for a lot of moms, they know their kid. They could probably hear three different kids crying at the same time. And to any other regular person, they would be like, oh, like, whose kid was that? And the mom of that kid would be able to be like, oh, yeah, that's my kid. Even though to you, that might be like, how could you tell? It was just a regular kid crying or whatever. But those are all these little things that you are able to develop when you become a mom. And not only that, it helps you to pick up on people's body language. Isn't that crazy? I honestly don't remember where I even read it because, again, it was one of my random searches that I was doing and Googling, and I kind of went down a rabbit hole, and one thing led to another, and somehow I landed on this article. So if I find it, I will link it. But I thought it was so incredibly interesting at what happens scientifically when you become a mom. And like I said, that is just one of the many blessings that you have as a mother. The last point I want to make about this episode is the unique growth that you go through when you become a mom. If you're a working mom, if you're a stay-at-home mom taking care of a house, it is like a trillion jobs in one when you become a mom. I would say, at least for me, this is my personal opinion, I truly believe that no other experience out there will stretch your faith, will refine you, will develop you more as a person than when you become a mom. Despite all the obstacles that mothers I know have to endure, you couldn't pay me to exchange that or take it away. I would not change any of it because it has been able to deepen my capacity to love, deepen my capacity to be more patient, more understanding, and look at the world in such a different light. And if it wasn't for me becoming a mother, I don't know if I would be as deep in my faith as I am now. And I say that because going through the hard times or those hard moments, not just in motherhood, but just overall while being a mother, it has drawn me so much closer to God. And it has drawn me so much closer to Mother Mary, Jesus's mom. If we want a role model, we're human, we're not perfect. But if you truly want a perfect example of who was the most incredible mother ever, look to Mother Mary. Mother Mary did everything with so much love, so much suffering and silence. Like I can't even begin to comprehend all the hurt and all the pain and all the suffering that Mother Mary went through, and she did it with love. If there is anything that I want you to take away from today's episode regarding motherhood, is to accept our sufferings with joy. And that is my prayer for you as a mom. If you are going through a hard time, if you are going through a hard season right now, no matter what stage of motherhood that you're in, just know my prayer for you is that you are able to find joy in your suffering, because that's not easy. It's not easy to accept our sufferings with love and as a form of self sacrifice. My biggest prayer to God is help me to accept those sufferings with love. Help me to do it with humility, just as your mother did. I've obviously shared a lot of lessons and joys of being a third time mom, but I also want to encourage all of you to embrace your own journey, because my journey as a mom is going to look completely different from your journey. And I just want to give that gentle reminder that no matter what you are doing right now, no matter how you feel right now, just know that God has chosen you to be a mother because you have what it takes. You have those graces. You have the skills. You have the intelligence. I understand all too well the feeling of not feeling enough, feeling like what you're doing is not good enough for your family, or even feeling unappreciated, feeling forgotten, feeling left out, feeling lonely within your family. All of those feelings, guys, I promise you, you're not alone. You are not alone in this journey. And I am sending that special prayer for every single mother that's listening, every future mother that's listening. God is going to give you that strength to persevere, because we are, as women, we are resilient. We are so strong. Even when we feel weak, we are strong. We were made for this. You were born to do what you're doing right now. And I want to finish this episode like I've been finishing all my other episodes, with a pondering question of the day. The pondering question of the day is: how can I invite God into the daily moments of motherhood, especially in times of exhaustion or difficulty? How can I invite God into the daily moments of motherhood, especially in times of exhaustion or difficulty? And that's going to be a wrap on the first episode of the Soul Sessions series. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, I knew it was going to be a little bit more rambling than usual, even though I tried to look at my notes and stay on point. But either way, I do hope that you enjoyed it. And I truly hope that this, not only this series, the Soul Session series, but I just hope that this entire podcast and this entire show can be a form of consolation for you, a form of connection, a little getaway, an escape. Like I said, I want this to feel like you have a friend in me, you have someone that you can listen to and kind of agree with or disagree with. That's okay. I truly hope that this podcast can make your day better. I can't wait to do another episode of Soul Sessions. And until next time, remember to keep on striving to be that woman you can be proud of. We finished already? Where did the time go? If you want more, be sure to follow this podcast so you can receive new episodes right when they're released. I'm curious, what was your biggest takeaway from this episode? What resonated with you the most? I'd love for you to let me know by leaving a review. Reviews let this platform know that amazing listeners like you enjoy the show. You can also come hang out with me on Instagram at Miss Vanessa Torres or at that.womanpodcast. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week.